Growing up, Sterling Reneau was always moving with an emphasis on going fast.
I was nonstop. It was nonstop athletics. My brother was playing soccer and basketball and football and track, and I was playing soccer and track. We were doing tennis camps and swim camps and all that stuff growing up. I mean, that's just how we lived.
So naturally, the Missoula native was bound for a future in sports, one that would take him through Sentinel High School, then to the University of Montana on a track and field scholarship, and now on the doorstep of making waves with Team USA cycling. But it's a journey that almost didn't happen.
My athletic career in high school and in college was a second chance. I had a crazy knee surgery when I was going into sophomore year of high school I basically couldn't walk from when I was an 8th grader to middle of freshman year.
Reneau suffered from osteochondritis dissecans, a joint disorder where essentially the end of his femur died in 3 spots, so parts of the bone or cartilage began to separate from the other part of the bone.
I was on crutches basically from middle of my freshman year of high school all the way to the middle of my sophomore year. I didn't basically play any sports from 8th grade to my junior year.
Eventually, the healing began, and Reneau would be able to resume competing in sports. He chose to focus on track and field, and though he competed just 2 years in high school, he starred for the Spartans as a senior in 2014.
Track, that was where I just felt like I could just forget about everything and just run.
From there, Sterling would compete at the University of Montana, where his father, Paul Reneau, was a coach. And he'd turn in a career where he was a 3-time Big Sky Conference champion for the Grizz and was part of an outdoor 1600 relay team that set the school record at the time in 2019.
If I hadn't had all those injuries, I could have ran a lot faster, but I still did stuff that almost nobody gets to do, so I'm never gonna bat an eye at that stuff.
But Reneau wasn't ready to be done with athletics after college, so he went back to the well with a sport he grew up passionate about in cycling.
And so cycling was one of those things that I was able to do through all of those injuries, and it was just kind of a way for me to stay active.
Reneau lived in Montana for a few more years before eventually making his way to Scottsdale, Arizona for a job at a world-class cycling shop. Not long after that, a friend informed Reneau about the Search for Speed, a talent identification and integration audition that Team USA Cycling was putting on for their development team.
And I was like, well, that's the only chance that I'm probably going to have, so I drove 400 miles from Scottsdale to LA to get on a watt bike for 6 seconds, and that turned into 8 months of testing and training and going back and forth between LA and Scottsdale and doing integration camps.
Then, great news followed.
After that 8 months, had what it takes to make the development team, and I think there were around 2,600 athletes that tried out for that first iteration of the Search for Speed, and from that 3 men and 2 women made it. And so I was one of the guys, and here we are.
So the kid from Missoula made it in track cycling with the Team USA developmental team in the team sprint. He trains, cycles, and lifts as essentially a full-time unpaid volunteer. And he competed at nationals this summer and has eyes on making the national team and, of course, someday, the Olympics. It's a long way to go, but knowing Reneau's story, he's no stranger to overcoming the obstacles.
When I was a young kid and looking at where I'm at now, it's still just like, what the heck? How have we made this happen? You put in the work, you put in the work, and then the opportunity arises. But then when the opportunity arises, it's still just like, ooh, I'm actually doing it.
Reporting in Missoula, Kyle Hansen, MTN Sports.